This time, chapter 230, we start off the chapter with twice an explanation of his quirk double. Huh. We get that this is his exact words. About my quirk double, it can turn one thing into two things. It can multiply up to two things at once. And finally, anything created by it is weaker than the original. For instance, he can make one clone and then two clones. Two is even weaker than one. Until one disappears, nothing new can be created. So, for instance, now this leaves a lot of questions to it because we see that he made like 30 something. He made like a big army of clones. So the first thought is can he make two, and then the two things he make like of himself, can his clones make even more of himself and keep it going? Or can he make two, for the two hands, and then after those two are done, he can make two more and keep it going like that? And not only that, he said nothing new can be created until one has been destroyed. So let's say if he does make a clone himself, can he? From what it sounds like, it sounds like he can't make a. No, even still, like, is the first one, is he able to make like a clone of, like, let's say Dobby, and then a clone of himself, like with the second clone being weaker than the first, or is he only able to make a clone of the thing he's already did, like two Dobbies, or is he able to make two of himself, and then one of his clones be like, okay, I'm gonna make some Dobbies, and then the other clone be like, okay, I'm gonna make some Shigarakis. Like, what is he? What, like, the description doesn't go in depth enough. I think like the author Horikoshi, he's like he's still trying to he's trying to make it sound good, but he's also trying to make it not sound OP, and so he's keeping it kind of vague so he can change it up like if the story demands it later down the line. But after that, we see Twice has an ultimate move and stuff. His ultimate Twice works. Sad Man's Parade, and we see like he made hundreds of himself, and he's going around. He's like he's telling them attack and kill like all of the Liberation Army. And when I say hundreds, he has like city blocks piled up with just clones of himself. So yeah, again, don't know like if the clones have to make more clones or if he can just make all of these. But anyways, after that we get Redestro. He's like, look at that. He overcame his psychological trauma. It looks like you were wrong, Mr. Skeptic. And like he's like, fail, I've failed once in my life. I didn't say I failed. This just means I have to change around how my plan is gonna be. Whatever. So apparently he's still not done with Twice just yet. He's walking out of the room. Maybe he's about to go beat his ass some himself. After that, we get to Dobby fighting. He's still fighting the ice climber dude. And I call him ice climber because he looks like the ice climbers in his parka, and he has ice abilities. So he's still fighting this guy. He's blasting off large scale explosions to like melt his stuff, and he's like your power. He's talking about the power of the dude to control ice. He can't create ice. He can only control ice that is already there. He's like, your power doesn't really match up with this situation. Like, all I have to do is melt your ice, and then you know you used all the ice in the city already. All I have to do is melt it, and and then that's when like Mr. Compress, he starts asking Dobby for help with like his fights and stuff. He's like, "Hey, could you help me out?" Blah blah blah. He's like, "Why would I help you?" Because Dobby's kind of like a loose cannon. Like, he's there, but he doesn't. Seems like he doesn't really care about any of them, and he just does whatever like the hell he feels like. But that's when Twice shows up with his army. He's fighting. It's a bunch of gibberish and stuff going back and forth. He's like, "Yeah, somebody needs to go help Toga." Blah blah blah. Really, this part with like Twice, the dialogue between like Twice, Mr. Compress, and Dobby isn't really isn't important. It's just like it's basically just them saying like, yeah, slow down, like, stop Yeah, yeah, all of you talking at once. We can't really hear what y'all saying. What's going on? Yeah, dang, it's too many of them. Like this shit's stupid now. But they like, yeah, go fight the Liberation Army and stuff like that. And then he's like, he said, this is when Mr. Compress, he's like, wait twice. If you eradicate everyone here, there'll be no one left to take on Gigantomachia for us. And they plan on taking out Gigantomachia by making the Liberation Army fight them and get themselves weakened so that they can just come through and finish off Gigantomachia and make him submit. So the time till Gigantomachia wake up is 1 hour and 5 minutes. Now, when they first told us, I think it was like when it first started, it was like 1 hour and 28 minutes or some shit like that. I was like, do they not know how anime work? Like fights do not last for hours. Like even those Dragon Ball Z fights that'll be like 10, 12 episodes, that was in the span of like 5 minutes, So yeah, that I was like, that doesn't really seem realistic. They should have started off like, yeah, Gigantomachia be here. He'll be woken up in 7 minutes, like something like that. But this ice dude, he completely makes like a giant ice thing. It just like destroys like a bunch of the Twice clones and stuff like that. And Dobby's like, now this goes back to when Dobby was like, yeah, I melted all your ice. Like, what's going on here? He sees that. He's like, I see what you actually did here. And this is when we get a little bit of more explanation into his power. He's like, I told you I can manipulate ice. I can also manipulate the temperature of ice. So he's like, if I send some ice into the sewers, lower its temperature, all the water around it's gonna freeze, and now I have more ice that I can control. And so he's basically created even more ice, and he's like, he starts saying like that the goal of the Liberation Army is to be like people with strong abilities should be able to use their abilities to survive, and like the people with weak abilities just gotta, you know, go off and die or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of making it. So now you can see why they the villains. They trying to start like a hierarchy type thing, kind of like an evolution, survival of the fittest kind of thing amongst people in society and stuff like that. But this guy, he's no joke. He says if you don't have a strong ability, like why bother living? And he's like, well, that's just sad. Die. This is Dobby saying like, well, that's just sad, and then die. And he's like, this is the ice dude. You're the one who'll be dying here, wielder of blue flames. Your body has been reeking of burnt flesh for a while now. That's where we get to this panel. He's like, observing your opponent to identify their limits is the bare minimum, and judging by that peeling burnt skin of yours, you can't fight for very long, can you? Your body can't stand your own flames. Dabi being a Todoroki confirmed, because even in the flashbacks with Endeavor, he says specifically to Shoto, he says your brother has strong flames stronger than even mine, but he was born with the like your mother's body, a body that couldn't take the flames or whatever. As this person pointed out, he's like, your body is being burnt by your own flames, like you can't even stand its power or whatever. That's what Mr. Compress is like. Like, no, I didn't even know that. He's kind of confused or whatever, and And he's like, I'd like for him to take on the ice dude. I'd like for him to take on Gigantomachia for us, but Dobby, something like that. And then we cut to the doctor. He's like, that's a cheap trick you guys got there, but it'll look bad for one for all if you like all died here. And that's when Gigantomachia, for some reason, he sleeps in the ground. He breaks out of the ground, knocking up trees and stuff. So next chapter, it looks like we're getting Gigantomachia into the fight, and he's gonna be in the fray, throwing some hands and getting down. But that was it for this chapter. Good little chapter. It was so that was a lot of. It seemed like filler in the middle, but the manga version of filler in the middle. But it was a good chapter. If you made it this far in the video, thanks. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe, or comment. Comment something funny if you do. And wherever you are, day or night, peace.